the virtual option since the governors and I guess the legislature too has signed on to allowing it for longer. Before we get started though, actually, can I get one of you guys to do minutes tonight? Is that okay?
I can do them.
Okay, thank you, Deidre.
And then, do you need to record this?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Oh, okay,
All right.
perfect.
Thank you. All right, so then I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 1st, 2022.
So moved.
Oh, we can't hear you, Deidre.
I was setting up to get notes started, and then I was like, oh, wait, I'm the only other person here. I have to second that. Okay, yes, I have set up my notes, and I will second that, and we are
okay. Good. Do you want a minute to read them over, or are we good?
I'm good. I didn't see anything.
I'm good. I read them earlier.
All right, then I'll start with a roll call. Carl?
Otmar, yes.
Deirdre?
Shapiro, yes.
And I vote yes too. So minutes are approved unanimously. Next is the current maintenance and operations project, and we'll start with the high school track project. So I think I'll start off by entertaining a motion to recommend to the full committee to move forward with the project to approve the use of $250,000 from FY22 toward the resurfacing of the track at Wachusett Regional High School.
So moved.
Second.
So we put this back on the agenda. I actually talked with Ken last week, who asked if we might be able to take care of sending the money forward to the full committee to help out the business and finance agenda moving forward. So I don't know if Daryl, would you or Mark would be able to update us on this?
Sure. So when we started to look at this a little more closely, we do have, Mark had the time to talk to, I think, a few different companies already. One of the issues that we need to deal with is just putting this out to bid. That's the other part. So actually, we just did that the other day. And Mark, if you want to go into the details about the timing for
Sure.
this, moving forward.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we just put it out, and May 2nd is going to be the walkthrough at the high school, which is next Monday at 10 o'clock, and then the bid opening will be May 9th at 11 o'clock in the curriculum center, and that's where we're headed with that.
So the issue right now is that because we're now officially going through the bidding process, so we had the initial quotes, we're probably not going to be able to move forward with a recommendation because we don't have a dollar amount associated with the true bid at this time. So they're going to be on the state bid list. We'll get a low bid. The likelihood of it being in the 250 to 275 range is probably pretty darn high. So that means that we're probably going to be in that range, but we'll probably have to come back to the full committee after it gets reconfigured, because if we get this on the 9th, it doesn't necessarily align perfectly.
Okay, so then if we hold on to this until May, and then does that work? So just thinking through like reorganization that's coming up in May as well, I don't know how that would work with the timeline.
Yeah, because I'm just looking real quick at I'm on the calendar, and so right, I don't believe we have a meeting scheduled. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 17th after the meeting on the 3rd. So that will be the next time that so we'll have it. So what we can do is this group can meet again before that time. If it's not, no, I'm just trying to think. It's not going to work.
No,
Now we're
because
off.
May
It's
9th.
happening on the 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're dissolved on May 9th.
Yeah. So then we'll have to come back together, probably in early June to approve that.
Okay. Okay. Um, okay, so then since what is the process here? We've got a motion on the table that we now have to,
I have a question.
yeah.
Yeah. So I may have missed something because I did miss a meeting, I think in between, but can you just rewind and tell and just kind of fill me in as to where the money was going to come from? I thought we didn't have the money for this, and that's why it was going to be put off this year.
Sure. So I'll just jump in
Yeah.
real quick, Deidre. Good question. We are in, in between our revenues and expenses. Our revenues are greater this year in terms of how we're going to play out toward the end of this fiscal year. We had more Medicaid than we had anticipated by quite a bit. So at the last business and finance meeting, when we were discussing, well, I wasn't, but they were discussing the entire amount that we could possibly have left over. We could literally end the year with $2.5 million that would go toward E&D. So we're actually going through and again, that was looking at this, if we didn't spend any more money and this is how it would play out. But, we have the funds in this year's fiscal budget. So we want to be able to tap into that rather than holding off until next year. And this also moves it forward. So we can say, okay, whatever company it is that ends up getting the bid, we can have this occur during the summer, ready to go for the fall, spring.
Okay. Yeah, that was my next question. So the timeline would be we approve the motion in June.
And as soon as it's approved, so what would happen is we would
shovel
have
ready.
exactly right. We would have something. So Mark would be working directly with the winning bid company, and then we'd go from there.
Okay.
And again, part of it would be getting on the docket. So we just be like, okay, we'll know which one it is on the 9th already. So what we'll probably say is, hey, we're just waiting for the formality associated with school committee. Put us somewhere on the calendar.
Okay. Just to get in there. Yeah.
Yep.
So it can be done over the summer. So it can be done over the summer.
Yep.
Okay. So then with this new outlook for E&D and the rest of the year, what about the tennis courts? I know that we had talked about it a little bit about how much more extensive the tennis courts job is, but are we going to be looking at a similar sudden, no, we can't play next season? Are we looking at that kind of situation?
Not right now. So what we're going to do is, and Mark and I talked about this, gosh, last week, the week before. We are going to do a patch and seal, a repaint, have it serviceable, and then look at making this part of one of our CIPs, because as we kind of go through this, that cost is going to be almost $1 million probably. By the time you're done, it's going to be, maybe not that much, but when we're talking about the type of court they would probably be putting in, it's a floating concrete court, and it's not pavement, not tar, that cracks and moves and heaves. And the other issue is the location of where our tennis courts are. If you've seen our tennis courts, they're kind of built up, and we've actually had to put riprap all the way around that because the rocks were starting to fall. This is probably like 6 or 7 years ago, Mark, when that started to happen.
Yeah, we did some major work up there when the initial riprap started coming down on the courts, on the far courts, right through the fence, in some spots. It was becoming pretty dangerous.
Yeah, it was. So
that's a constant problem up there with the slopes and the grades that we deal with.
Right. So, and Mark has firsthand knowledge of living with that for several years up there. So, as we kind of go through it, I think one of the things we'll be looking at is that, again, can they come on in? Can they do something in that area so that it's kind of guaranteed, a 30-year, we're not going to be paying for this again in 10, 15 years. This is a 30-year hold for us. And that's really, Mark, I think
6. Okay. That's, yeah. A lot.
Okay, so what?
Hi, Brett. Welcome.
Hi, Brett.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Brett.
Sorry I'm late.
So that's okay. We're talking about the track, just to update you that because of the bid process that it needs to go through because of the expense, we had moved the motion because I jumped the gun on putting that up there. And now, actually, do we need to rescind it or postpone? I don't know. We have a motion on the floor, right? So,
Do we table it to another meeting?
yeah, I think we table it or postpone it for the next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we can just, make a motion to postpone definitely to our next meeting.
Yeah, so are you making that motion?
Yes, I move that we postpone definitely to our next meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll do roll call. Brett,
Yep.
Carl,
Yes.
and Deirdre,
Yes.
and I vote yes too, so that's 4-0. Okay, so then the next item, and I do want to just in case I didn't say it at the beginning, we are ending at 7 or 6:58 or something to move on to executive session in the next meeting. So the other item, the next item is the other facilities work for the spring and summer of 2022. And so I don't know if Mark, if you want to take us through some of the highlights there, if that works.
That's coming up.
Yeah, what's coming up for first the spring, what had to close out the year, and anything you see over the summer. Anything that's the highlights.
Okay. So I could start with the stuff coming up over the summer, and then back up to some of the stuff that we overlap. We do a lot of inspections and stuff like that, such as emergency generator inspections, buildings. We inspect gym equipment and bleachers, that type of things. Those are just some of the things we do for the summer, type of thing. The anticipated stuff we have coming up, of course, is we're going to be converting Paxton, Mayo, Davis Hill, Dawson, and high school to LEDs. We've got some conversions to complete there. Thomas Prince, we're going to convert the gym and corridor classroom to LEDs. District-wide, we're working on marrying the EMS systems, the emergency management systems that are a computer-based system used to monitor building HVAC and that type of stuff. We can now access that remotely offsite and try and adjust things. So we're continually working on that stuff that's coming down in the future. We're looking at Glenwood possibly replacing the phone and communication and bell system. We're having a lot of trouble in that school. Daily, we're resetting that system in Glenwood. Central Tree is looking at replace the phone and communication and bell system also. We get a similar issue in Paxton. Paxton's going to get we're looking to install a security system. It's the only school in the district that doesn't have a security system, so we really don't know who's coming and going in that building. So there's some of the things we get going. We were looking down the road. That's all stuff that's small, under the threshold stuff. Of course, the over the capital budget stuff. We've got the Dawson bathroom discussion, what we're doing with that. Along with that piece are two other pieces of the refurbishing of the baths that are existing, and the HVAC for the cafeteria area and the ventilation in that area also. So we've got that on board to look at. I wanted to bring up, we still have 2 schools in the district that don't have a sprinkler system. And we talked a little bit about that the other day. We're looking at possibly the replacement, the rug replacement in wood tile in Chalks at Houghton. I mean, there's been a lot of talk on that. We've got you know, a little bit of LED stuff. ECC's got aged windows. I don't know, you know, how far we want to go with that. As far as a window replacement, that can get real costly. You know, we'd have to look at some point at the longevity of the building, you know, and how long we would be holding on to, you know, maybe keeping that running. Houghton Chalk Set, you know, we could do look at a boiler conversion for gas. The gas is in the street. It just has to be brought into the building. So, you know, I don't know if that benefits us. We could look at that. Of course, the price of gas is climbing too now. So, natural gas. So that all comes into play. We mentioned the track. We have that rolling. The timing of the bid process and everything kind of plays out a little bit that our students are in that season right now, and they're actually training on the track. So we wouldn't be able to start that project till the middle of June, probably anyways. And that being said, there's a limit, there's a window of time that you can apply that surface, and it has to be fairly warm weather consistently over weeks. And you know, that windows may start, you know, towards the end of May and just carry up into the early parts of September, you know, that type of thing. So, you know, we're kind of playing right into that window. It looks like we're gonna fall into that. By the way, there was some talk about the fact that if we're doing just the track, or are we doing the pole vault areas and the long jump areas? We're looking at the whole project, the whole place, every place. We're gonna, everything that's red up there now will be redone. So everything will be in tip-top shape when we put it back together. We don't want to just do 90% of it and have to come back for a piece just because we weren't watching it. It'll all get replaced. That'll all be walked through next Monday during the opening. So, yep.
Can I ask how about because it's not the track material, but how about the shot put ring?
Yeah.
Does that need anything? Is it going to be the one little old part?
I can't speak on the specifics of that, but the whole area will be addressed
Okay.
as we put it all back together.
I had to ask because that was my event. So
we talked about the high school. We have a at the high school. We talked about the tennis courts. We have a temporary plan to make them better than they are right now and get us through the season on that. We know that's a long shot, but it's something we should start rolling and start working towards getting that wrapped up. Naquag's got a couple issues. Naquag's got that electrical room, the panel, and Daryl can speak a little later on that if we have the time. But that, you know, came in relatively cheaper than we thought. We have the movable curtain in Naquag that we have a lot of trouble with, constant maintenance, constantly getting stuck. There's a dip in the roof section there, and it causes the curtain to bind up. We could look at doing something with that. They also have a roof replacement that's probably when the roof was replaced on the school, they did the whole school except for the section over the library for whatever reason. So that roof is going to need some attention or replacement in the near future. The high school, one of the projects we have been talking about up the high school, and it gets hot and then it dies off, was the security entrance at the front offices. The way it is up there right now, you can buzz anybody through the doors and they're free to enter the building and walk wherever they go. There's no checkpoint where they have to, you know, come in, you know, address themselves, state their business, that type of thing, or a waiting area if they need to be escorted someplace throughout the building. And that's been up and down in conversation before. So, you know, things like that are constantly, you know, there's always stuff to pick at, you know.
all right, thank you. Carl, do you have a question?
I do. So my question, so on the handout you had sent, the under capital improvement threshold, the note for the security system at Paxton, how does that relate to the 50,000 item that's on our capital improvement
Yeah.
for this year that we're voting on next week for a security system? How,
Yeah.
what's the relationship between those?
Daryl, can you jump in on that?
So that's the security system for Paxton.
Right.
Just right. So here's the difference between Paxton and the other schools is that there's literally no security system. We have no panel. We have an alarm we can't lock the building yet and have motion detectors and so forth in that building, right? And there have never been those items in that building. So that 50,000 encompasses all of that, and that's what would be voted on. So that's above the 35.
Right. But I guess my question is that in part 4, he says anticipated maintenance operational needs under capital improvement, Paxton install security system. So I'm asking.
I could stand corrected on that too, Kyle. I follow what you're doing. I had put this together the other day, not thinking that that may intertwine with that.
It's the same thing, but it's the same thing. Is that what you're saying, Mark?
Yeah, right, exactly. I apologize if that's in the wrong.
Okay.
If I should have put that under the over 35,000.
Okay.
I was trying to put together as much information as we could. I wasn't sure how much time we were gonna have to spend on this stuff, so I was throwing all kinds of stuff out and just trying to get it ready.
Okay. I mean, that would have been my guess. But I didn't know, because if there was like the town goes through and does their thing, and then the district was looking to do something on top of that, that was in addition to what the town would do. So I didn't know.
Yeah. Deirdre?
Yes. So I saw your report. It looks really great. I'm just wondering, how does this correlate with the capital improvement plan that's kind of already out there, kind of been presented to the towns for the next 5 years or so? How are these falling onto there? Are they on there, or are they different? Or they're just trying to prioritize? I wasn't exactly sure where. Yeah.
Let me just jump in, if you don't mind, because one of the things that I think I kind of wonder about going forward with the capital improvement plan, the way that it's presented so far, it is something that's supposed to be edited each year,
Right. That's the way I understood
reevaluated,
it.
right?
Yeah.
So I think some of these I had noticed line up just the same, and then some of them might be moved around. So that's where for tonight, if we could just stick to what is this spring and this summer for now, and then talk about reprioritizing when we have a little bit more time
Mhm.
at our next meeting. That's what I was hoping we could do, if that's okay with the group.
So the next meeting would be June, though, and it could be a totally different committee. I'm just, thinking timeline of when we would look at that again. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it would be June.
I guess what I'm just trying to make sure is that lists like this one don't not translate and people just stop looking at the capital improvement plan because they have this list in front of them, and all of a sudden these things become priority, when actually, when the plan was made 2 years ago, there was other priorities at that time. So yeah, it's supposed to be a kind of a living document that would be reviewed. I just didn't know what the plan for when that would happen. So it sounds like there's a plan, and that's good. So we'll make sure that happens in June, so that gets updated. So then I guess the question would be, who does those updates? Would that be Mark? Would you, or Daryl, or?
Yeah. So what we do is again, we'd make the updates, but this group will come back together over the summer,
Mhm.
in August, and really take a look at this, reprioritize, and really redevelop the capital improvement plan. And then that will get submitted much earlier this year when it's supposed to be. This one was way off time, in terms of the time frame. So it will be submitted in early fall, so that we're not dealing with kind of some of the backlash that we've received from the town saying, "Hey, we're getting this so late." We had, and I think that's part of it. So this will all be solidified, really in August. Once we kind of talk about, this group kind of talks about, okay, what are the areas that we want to focus on? This will come back to school committee in some form or fashion. and then it'll go back to the communities.
Okay, that sounds good. I like that.
Yeah, because what I mean, what I'd like to see going forward for this group is a pretty regular calendar of what we talk about and when. And so to make sure that we talk about quotes in the fall and we talk about these different concrete plans earlier in the fall, so that if we're, the current policy has about that sending in the projects in March. I think that that was, a misunderstanding on my part of how this is supposed to go. And so, I mean, I feel like it's on me that I should have understood better of how everything should piece together. But now I do. I
But
think a little bit better.
the changing of the guard, like, so I want to say
Yeah.
this, so to speak, like every single year possibly makes for that learning experience to keep happening. So like what Linda's proposing is actually really helpful for next year's committee, which could be us. It might not be us,
Right.
it's just like, let's do the next groups do ourselves a favor and the next group's favor, however that plays out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, what happens, because it's a living document and it's
Mhm.
constantly being updated and modified. School committee makes recommendations to the towns. Hey, here are the things that we think, we're going to vote on these and we think you should pass these. Well, it doesn't always happen. So then you're going back into your, okay, let's go back to Sterling. They're not going to do
Right.
the floors again. So let's just keep that. I'm not saying, but that's,
Please don't say that.
I'm not gonna say, like, that's kind of, but that's what we would then update. And then also, this is, pre everybody here, I believe, but Joe Scanlon, who was Carl or Linda, I don't know if you guys were on when Joe was here, but like Joe was a former business director, and he had done like a pretty comprehensive CIP with Jimmy Cavello around the septic tanks and all these things, and we shared that with the town. So you do have these life expectancies associated with roofing and HVAC systems and heating systems and electrical panels and so forth. So all that would come into play. But yes, that's really, I think this gets pulled together over the summer. It's ready to go. The towns have a chance to kind of talk through it and so forth, because then they really start working on their budget in January in the same way that we do. And they want to be able to say, you know what, we're going to have to replace the boiler system, over at Paxton. It's going to cost us $450,000. Okay, that's
but the idea
So
is that
I
they have a
do.
5-year.
So I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I just want to break
Yeah.
in just because we're at 6:36. I want to
Mhm.
make sure that we cover everything that we've got today. Sorry, Deidre.
No, it's okay.
I hate cutting people off. I hate that. So I do want to just kind of refocus. I did want to go over some of the things that happened in this past spring, because that's the section of the agenda that we're on. And just to go over, there are some of those. So we will go over the summer. And one of the other things that I want to bring forward to the next subcommittee too is to the policy 7132, which is about maintenance, repairs, um, and I think renovations is the other thing. And it hasn't been updated in 20 years. So I think that that's probably the next policy that we should look at for review, to make sure that it jives with what, like Mark has listed out here, that everybody's doing. Make sure that we're going through the safety systems that we need to be going through, besides the repair, and then the process for repairs during the year. And so then that's the next part that I wanted to go over, are there were those spring um, emergent problems that came up across the district in various buildings. And so I was hoping that Daryl and Mark could take us through those in terms of what is, because there was the Houghton issue with the boiler, I think. And then the heat in, was it Dawson? And I think that there was another surprise large item that came up this winter and spring.
Large items?
Yeah, the large item. So I didn't
Yeah.
know if we could talk about those really quick
There
again.
were several things that popped us. Of course, we had the power go down outside here at ECC. We lost that power in the building in January, and the same night we blew the hot water heater in Rutland. That was a $43,000 whack at Central Tree. That hit us unexpected. We had the boiler, the pipes in the boiler room at the high school failed, and that was pretty extensive. I have these numbers in front of me if you want me to look at them. Um, you know, things like that caught us off guard. Same thing at Dawson. We did a pipe replacement there, and we're constantly getting. We had the uh, Vita root system, which monitors the 20,000 gallon oil supply at the high school fail, and that's something that the state steps in and immediately makes us correct. That was $9,000. That just pops up one day. We have stuff like that continuously with 13 buildings. One of the things I want to put on everybody's radar too, and people don't realize, is the high school's starting to mature. The HVAC equipment and everything, was slated for a 15-year max. And we're looking at that 15 years right about now. If we put the 2007 date on there. So that equipment all on the roof of the high school, for instance, is starting to mature and it's starting to fail on a regular basis. We're going to be putting some money, big time money into that coming down the road. That these are things that, we don't see. And then all of a sudden, boom, it just dices out on us and we have to scramble to fix it. I had a problem, for instance, this week in Paxton. Talked to Daryl on Wednesday. Had the fuel pumps just seize up on me to the boilers, and we went without heat the whole week in Paxton. Great time for it to happen. April vacation, we were shut down. We had one classroom in there. We had some kids doing some extra work. We kept it, with portable electric heaters. We kept it warm enough to survive. And it literally, the equipment's old, and it takes us time to locate the parts. Not to mention that we have the COVID aspect of dealing with part scarcity, So it took us all week, and we were still there on Saturday, putting the last of the parts in. We drove all over New England pretty much, not us, but our vendors drove all, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Mass, Boston area over 3 days just to gather all the parts, just to put these units back together. And yeah, come Saturday afternoon, we had heat and we started warming the building up. Of course, you let a building sit like that for a week. The bricks get that cold, and now you have to get them warmed up again. So it takes, we burnt 4,400 gallons in a day and a half from Saturday to Monday, fuel oil, just getting that school reheated so that we could open today. And that's something that just sneaks up and grabs you unexpected, and they're big hits to the budget. But it's stuff that we can't hesitate on. We have to go right out and we have to fix it. The fire panel in Rutland's been hanging all year. That went out early in the fall or in November, and we've been scrambling to get that put back together, and it's still not back together. We're waiting on a part for the panel down at Central Tree, and that's a $35,000 project. It hit us, pretty hard, and they haven't get paid. We haven't paid them, but we don't have the school back together either. So and that's something that just hit us out of nowhere. Problem with the you want me to speak a little bit about the electrical room at Naquag, Daryl?
Yeah, I mean, we actually have, yeah. Oh, am I on mute? No, I'm not on mute. Again, we have Naquag is a kind of a hodgepodge of newer, kind of not even newer, kind of 20-year-old, and then 60-year-old kind of equipment panels and so forth. And that's one of the things that we actually shared with Rutland was the cost. So this was something that was voted on, in reference to the school committee, and I believe the budget was originally 150.
125, Daryl.
125. Okay. And it's probably going to look more like 75 to 80, which is really good news for Rutland. And we're excited about sharing that. So it was good. So Rutland is dealing with some town manager issues right now. So some of the stuff didn't get to the select board in a timely manner. So the select board reached out to me today, and I shared the information that they needed in reference to some of the quotes associated with that. Rutland also, they were looking at putting together, and I think you guys probably talked about this, the pavement, having this giant bond and paving all of the elementary schools, doing all the berms, all the curbing. And I don't know if that fell through. But they asked for the quotes that we had put together. They asked for that again today. So I did share that with them. So that was good news for us, all the way around. And again, part of, and I think just real quick, one of the issues that we run into as a district, this has happened twice during my time, maybe not when I was superintendent, maybe it was, I can't remember. It all kind of melds in right now, but we had a school where we had a freezer actually break over a weekend. It completely went, and it soaked through the wall. We had to replace drywall. We had to do everything, and it was like a $40-something thousand fix. And because of the timing associated with telling the town about it, that town refused to pay for it. We're now in a situation where we had something like that happen again in one of our schools, and the information didn't get to the town in a timely manner. So from my vantage point, I'm now saying, if we have anything that goes on where we think it's going to even come close to $25,000, Mark is going to get on the horn with the town manager and just say, "Hey, I just want to let you know we have whatever it is, this company coming in to do this emergency work because we have to open the school on Monday. I'm just letting you know it could reach the threshold really, really fast." And as long as we send an email, put it in writing, have the conversation with them, if it's an emergency, it's an emergency. We have to do it. It's part of the regional agreement. The issue comes down to, if it's something that we think should happen, not an emergency. Yeah, it costs $40,000. We're just going to do it, and then we're going to build a town later. That doesn't work. We have to have these open lines of communication. So, Mark and I talked about that a little earlier today. Anything that's even approaching $25,000, which used to be the limit, anything approaching that amount, Mark's giving the town manager a heads up immediately. Town manager, sometimes it's DPW as well. So that, we can have those conversations with those people.
So for something like the I think it's at Central Tree, right, with the fire alarm, that's
panel?
part, yeah, the fire panel. That's part of the lease agreement though, right? So that was one of the questions that I had, was about making, what is that process? You've explained that for the emergent problems. I mean, in terms of emergencies that were relayed too late, that's,
Yeah.
we just have to let that go. Is that I didn't recall seeing a timeline.
No, there isn't a timeline. So we are going. So there are two things. It's a boiler over in Rutland. It was a water boiler, correct?
Hot water heater. Yeah.
Hot water heater. I'm sorry, boiler. Sorry, hot water heater. And that reached the threshold, and we now have to. Hey, listen. By the way, here's what happened, and we had to pay for it. The panel. Again, I've been working with Seth Knipe a little bit. Seth Knipe is the fire chief there. So we have been going back and forth around what the cost might be, how much, is it going to reach the 35? Is it not? Should they be responsible for it? So we are going to have a broader conversation about that, Linda, because I do believe that they're responsible for the fire suppression system. They're responsible for all those items in there to ensure that they work. Of course, we pay to have all of our fire suppression systems checked every year. That was one of the things Mark mentioned in the summer. We have a company that comes through and checks every single head, and every time we replace one of those, it's pretty darn expensive. So, yeah, I definitely think that's something that we need to be way more cognizant of. And I think part of it is looking at it from this vantage point of this group. Hey, it's the school committee. We're looking at this as a group, and we're saying, hey, the town needs to be responsible for this according to the agreement. And that's what, they've signed off on. That's what we've signed off on. So let's move forward with it.
Those two items alone, I might add, are about $80,000 that was unexpected that hit us this year. So, and
Right.
they're items that we needed the hot water heater fixed yesterday to open the school and keep that school open. There's certain things we have to do and just talk about what's going to happen with them later. but we've got to just get them done to keep the doors open every day. So.
Yep.
So you said, and just to make sure I heard you right, that we paid it up front. Rutland has to pay it back, and we don't know when.
So technically, that's the way it works. Yeah, Brett. So, but again, we ran into an issue with one town where that happened, where we went back to them after the fact and said, "Hey, we had to do all of this work." And I can't remember what the exact bill was, but it was in the 40 range, and that was back when I think the threshold was 25, and the town absolutely refused. They just said, "Nope, you didn't go out to bid, you didn't do this, you didn't do this." So we do have to look at this way more carefully because these types of items come up. They're not frequent, but when they do, I don't and again, I don't want to get into a battle with the towns because we're trying to keep a school open. We just want to be able to say, hey, listen, the regional agreement or the building the agreement with the town says they're responsible for this, that, and the other thing. We always have issues around one school where there's the water coming into the building.
Oh yeah. No, but my point is, they are going to pay us back.
We don't know yet.
We don't know.
Yep.
Can I ask, does anybody here happen to know, we don't have the lease agreements in our packet this time. I didn't ask for them. But they are coming due for a renewal, aren't they? With the towns?
I'm not completely sure, Linda. Let me look at that. I'll check.
I think it might be this June.
Okay. Could very well
So
be.
yeah, Linda, for my notes, you mentioned the policy. Is that a
So
policy on emergency repairs? I want to make sure I get it in here though, because I don't see 71332
7132. It's
maintenance and repairs and renovations. That's the one.
yes.
Okay, and that's supposed to be. It's supposed to address. I'm just scrolling through. It's supposed to address emergency repairs. Emergency requests for repair, maintenance, and renovation should be given. Okay.
And also routine and preventative. But
Right, it's all
if
in
you
there.
look at the end, it was last amended 2002.
Okay, so that's a while. Yeah, it needs to be looked at. Okay.
And I don't know how much procedure is within the policy. I just skimmed through it as something that we should put on our radar as soon as
Mhm.
possible to make sure everything can be communicated properly.
Yeah, I
So,
put it on the note for next meeting, under next meeting, so we can have that on the agenda.
yeah. All right. So I'm just looking at the time again. So 6:51. Do you guys have any other questions before I move on to the cell tower issue, just to make sure we talk about that too?
Yeah, let's move on.
You good? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I don't know if you all were present at the meeting, at the last full committee meeting. Deidre, I
Yeah.
know you were gone, but we had a citizen who spoke at the second public hearing about a proposed cellular tower going up in Rutland. And they were asking if the facilities subcommittee might look at it to make a recommendation to not build the tower. But it was pretty late in the hour. I think it might have been a bit of a Hail Mary to try to get something going. I don't have that much information about it except what was in the email that I think all of us got from the citizen. But I know, Daryl, I talked with you about it a little bit. I don't know if you can give us your take.
Yeah. So this is if you're familiar with any of the Rutland schools, but Naquag and Central Tree. Naquag is up above, Central Tree is down below. There's a quarter of a mile road in between the two. If you go down from Naquag down to Central Tree on the left-hand side, a property owner has offered up the opportunity for, I don't know, some company to put up a cell tower. So discussion has ensued at the town level quite a bit. The issue. So I was actually approached, last fall by a former select board member in Rutland. Just said, are you allowed? This was a person who actually sat on the building committee for Central Tree, and he said, can you just check to see if there's any kind of limitation associated with cell towers and schools and proximity and kids and so forth? And I had Joe Bartulis actually go through it, and he had somebody in his office put together a really nice briefing, and I can share that with all of you. That basically said, you know, it is what it is. You don't have any, you don't really have any say because it's not your property.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, you know, from our vantage point, you know, I said, yeah, I'd be happy to look into something because he just wanted to know. I said, and from our vantage point, it's we don't have a legal argument per se. Now, that doesn't mean as a group, you could say we don't believe that it's a good idea to have a cell tower this close to students and children and people in, you know, in a residential area. So I think that's really what Mr. Rokiki was talking about the other evening, was just basically, hey, could this group take a stance and say, you know, we're not in support of this.
Any questions, comments?
No, I have I have been following it, and there's a select group of the public that is really opposing this tower, and they're just looking for any reason to push back, and I don't think they have a ton to push back on. That's feelings aside, I feel like we should almost be neutral to it, because we don't have any real claim to it. We could take something to the larger group once, but I kind of feel like we should stay neutral.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that point of view because we don't have that much information. I think
Not our
that
property.
right, it's the town property, right? And or as abutters, right? The schools are the town is the abutter in the situation, right? Because the town owns the schools. So as tenants of the schools, I would be interested in seeing what Attorney Bertulis put together,
Definitely.
just because that was my one question was
Sure.
if we're, the least group in the buildings, do we then get a say? But it sounds like we don't. And I didn't know if it went into that kind of like attractive nuisance territory or, it was just there are so many avenues that may intersect with a recommendation from the school committee, but at this point in time, I don't know how much information we really have. Go ahead, Carl.
So I guess, like for me, like the two things that I would like the information that I don't have that I would like to know. One would be like what research is out there regarding adverse health implications of having cell towers a certain distance from a school. Like if there is any research out there at all, and if there is, what the research says. The second thing I'd be interested to hear though would be from from an emergency response side of it, in terms of having a cell tower that close. Is that a positive thing for emergency response, for the school being able to access 911 and whatever? So those are kind of the two things. Like if it's it's actually a good thing having it there because it improves communications, or like how those two things would balance out for me.
And I haven't heard the what brand the cell tower is. Is it AT&T and Sprint? Is it all of them? I haven't gotten visibility to that. I can tell you that there's no cell reception at I don't want to get the school wrong, at Glenwood, the bottom of the hill. It's just dead down there.
Yeah, it's AT&T. They're the ones that would be doing the tower. Yeah, I just found the information from Joe. What I'll do is I'll have Randy put it into a folder, and then she'll share it out with this group so you can take a look at everything. And those are emails from Joe. I think he had somebody else in his office do some research on this as well, so I can shoot that out. Or we'll have Randy share it with all of you.
Thank you. That would be great.
Okay.
So at this point then, so the next item on the agenda is the next meeting. And I think right now, we just have to say after reorganization. And so then the last thing is I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And I'll do a roll call. Brett,
Yep.
Carl,
Yes.
Deirdre,
Yep. Thank you.
and
Yes.
I vote yes.